What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to Real Res Talk. My name is Sam. I am flying solo. Flying. Bleh. Already started badly. Flying solo tonight. People are not free for whatever reasons, business, jobs, all that kind of stuff. Life happens. But you've got me. I wanted to do something a little bit sort of different today. Like we typically during the international bait news is a bit scarce. There's not much to talk about, and I just don't want to repeat the same things. Obviously, Nick and Reyes spoke about that in the afternoon shows. So I kind of wanted to speak on a bit something slightly more positive because there's a lot of doom and gloom with Erik Ten Hag at the minute. Fear of losing his job. There's been meetings. Thomas Tuchel has been put out there quite a bit in terms of like replacing Ten Hag. So yeah, I just wanted to go with something a little bit different today, and I wanted to give 3 reasons, just my opinion, just my thoughts. Not saying these are facts. I'm saying everybody should agree with these, but these are my opinions of how he could potentially save his job and potentially turn it around. Because we all know there's a couple of things we got watch him game to game, week to week that we think, why is he continuing with that? Why are we still doing that? Why has he not done this? Why is he not seeing this? And I just wanted to go through a couple of mine that I thought were quite important, and I think definitely sort of right the ship a little bit, if not stave off the sack for a little while longer. I know there's 100 reasons I could go through here. I could go through anything from top to bottom, and I could be here for hours. But in the terms of just keeping this video nice and short, I'm just going to be here for about 20-30 minutes, just so you've got some content. And then, yeah, just so there's a nice little debate in the chat and the comments if you've got it. If you've got reasons that I don't touch on here that you want to put in, please do. Chuck them in the chat, chuck them in the comments. Always happy to see the interaction and people in the comments and stuff. So yeah, should we move on to let's go to the first one, shall we? So first one, tactical flexibility. Now, what do I mean by tactical flexibility? Erik Ten Hag has been accused of being quite rigid, quite stubborn in the way he sort of sets up, the way he wants his teams to play, and the way he wants things to happen in the game. He's been known to change things tactically before. In his first season, we saw he tried to play in the first couple of games a certain way. He couldn't do it because of the personnel he had in David De Gea and the defenders and the midfielders that he had. So he was forced to change it and go to a more sort of pragmatic style with sort of 2 deep lying midfielders and playing more sort of pragmatically and on the counter attack, which was quite successful in his first season with Casemiro, Eriksen, and Bruno. And then obviously in his second season, he wanted to implement his style and he wanted to change the way we played and increase the sort of attack control and that kind of stuff. But it ended up very chaotic. We saw massive gaps in the midfield. We saw huge sort of space between the defense and the midfield. Obviously, the defensive injuries and the constant. I think we had like 40 different combinations of defensive players at one point. That didn't help. I think we had 65 separate injuries. So obviously that was a big factor in sort of trying to implement this style. That was the excuse used anyway. He did manage to win a trophy. But we saw towards the end of that season, again, showing he's capable of tactical change. We saw towards the end of that season, he changed it up a bit. I think it was the last 4 games. I think it was Brentford, Arsenal, and then there was might not have been Brentford actually. Was it Brighton? Brighton, Arsenal, and then a couple others. And then against City, one of the most excellent tactical setups I've ever seen, and beat them conclusively. Nobody could say that weren't just snatch and grab there. We tactically outthought and outdid Pep Guardiola on that day and won the trophy fair and square. And then this season again, he's gone back. And he's gone back to this transitional all our attacking style. As soon as you get the ball, it has to go forward. We have to go, 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 go. There's no control about it. It's chaotic. We're wide open. Just for example, we saw in the Tottenham game, Van de Ven, the centre-back, was able to run from his own area all the way through our midfield to our box and then put a ball in for a tap in from Brennan Johnson. That is the pure example of how wide open we are in the midfield and within the defence. It is shocking how bad it is. And he's insistent on playing this way. Because if he wasn't, he would have arrested it because he saw it all last season. He changed it the last couple of games of the season when he realised his job was under threat. Changed it, got some results, got a trophy. People were like, okay, he's willing to do this. maybe he can change things up next season. Gone into the season, it's it is slightly different. We've had less shots on goal. We've had a bit more sort of tactical nous, but it's still not working for what we're doing. I think the only game this season we can say with confidence we've played extremely well and we were unlucky not to get a result is probably Crystal Palace. I think we played extremely well for about 70 minutes. Let the game go towards the end with some weird substitutions, which is a topic I didn't put in, but it probably should be in there. His substitution sort of should be in within this sort of group as well. And he was just really weird with the rest of the games. Like the rest of the games, like Fulham, not convincing. Brighton, maybe were a bit unlucky, but tactical switch off at the end allowed them to score. 3 players unmarked at the back post. Absolutely dominated by Spurs. Absolutely sort of put over by FC Twente. I think if they were a better team, we probably would have lost that game. Porto chucked away a 2-0 lead due to sort of the same things. Ended up having to sort of like sacrifice our centre backs just to sort of get back in the game and like try and salvage something. Got absolutely whooped by Liverpool. And then Villa was yet again another example of him going, oh shit, my job is in trouble here. I need to change things. And going pragmatic and basically setting up not to lose rather than to win a game, which obviously he's trying to do with his tactical setup currently. He's trying to win games, but it's just there's no balance to it. There's no control. There's no sort of defensive setup in case we lose the ball, which is what happens quite often because we're trying to win the ball so high up and everybody commits forward, the fullbacks, the midfielders. You've only got a single defensive midfielder. Normally it's Casemiro, but Ugarte has been brought in to do that job and he's covering so much space and trying to put out and doesn't know which way to go and where to be. We end up just getting absolutely swarmed over. The ball turns over. They go to our centre backs. Our current first choice centre back pairing is Leacher and Delict. As soon as they get hit, because they're not quick, they have to drop deep. And they drop deeper and they drop deeper. And then the gap becomes from what it should be about here. It comes here and it comes in and it just and then they have all the space in the world to play a ball through and they're in on goal. And that's why we conceded so many shots last season because people were just able to walk up to our box and take a shot and it wasn't an issue. And I think that needs to change. He shows he's got the tactical nous and he can change things. He's got it within his head because we've seen him do it. First season he changed it. Towards the end of last season he changed it. Against Villa he changed it. Might not have been what we liked or what the way United should be playing, but he changed it. So he is capable of doing it. So why is he sticking with this? It's stubbornness. It has to be because he's been backed. He's got 600 million on players. Injury wise, we haven't got too many injuries. I think just before the Mazraoui thing happened the other day, the only injuries we got out is Luke Shaw and Malacia. Everybody's fit. His brand new players are there. And Lenny Yoro, but he hasn't played a game yet in an actual sort of league game or anything like that. So I don't want to count him. He has no excuses. So I think it comes down to stubbornness and hard-headedness. He wants to push forward with this philosophy and this way of playing, despite the fact that clearly the players he's got aren't suitable for the system. And either hope against hope, he's just hoping it clicks at some point, and then the players go, "Oh shit, there it is," and it ends up flowing. Or he just thinks the players are not working hard enough, or he just needs to tweak something here or move somebody here, and it'll eventually come right. But I just don't think it will. And I think that's what's going to cost him his job, his stubbornness on the tactical flexibility. He's just not willing to change it unless his job is in trouble. And then he goes to a pragmatic system to not lose rather than win games, which, again, is not going to do you well when you're a United manager. All right, move on to the second one. Second one, drop underperformers. So I've got Bruno on a picture for a reason there. I think we can all feel that Bruno has been one of our biggest underperformers this season. He is normally a talisman for us, and I think again the system that Ten Hag has tried to use this year doesn't help a lot of his players. I think Casemiro was exposed to the system having to cover so much ground, like I explained with Ugarte. I think the chaotic system that we had last year saw Bruno able to thrive in it because that's where he plays the best. One-touch football, back heels, flicks, things through balls on the counter. That's kind of how Bruno thrives and what he's really, really good at. when you're asking him to control or come back, drop deeper, put in tackles and stuff, he's just not that good. And you see he's all over the pitch trying hard, but ends up giving a foul away, ends up whinging at the referee for like really small things. And I think he has been a consistent underperformer this season, and Ten Hag just doesn't want to drop him. I think that sends a message to a lot of players. It's like if you perform badly, I'm still not going to drop you because you are the guy that I want to pick. And it doesn't matter how bad you play. We saw it last season, Marcus Rashford, how many times we were saying he should have been dropped, and he wasn't. He continued to play despite the fact that we were saying literally every week, you need to drop him. He's not running back. He's not committing. He's not sharp. Not his head's not right. All that sort of stuff is just really, really frustrating to see. Anthony was another one for a long time. Anthony was playing poorly, just really just not up to the standard that we were expecting, especially for the price tag that he came in at, and just refused to drop him for a long time. Luckily now that's happened, like he has been dropped, but it's a continuation. He seems to have his favourites and he will play them into the ground even if they're playing terribly, which then says to players, well, you're not going to even if you're not going to play well, if you're one of my guys, you're just going to play. So I think that's a bad message to send, especially to younger players. It's like, how are they supposed to break into the team, or fringe players? How are they supposed to break in and make a claim to a spot if the position they play, normally they would get an opportunity if the player in front of them misperforms or is injured? Now, Bruno is not injured very often, as we know. So if he underperforms, he has to be dropped. It shouldn't just because he's captain, it shouldn't mean he shouldn't be dropped. People like Eriksen, we've seen him come in this season. He's looked excellent. Arguably, he's looked one of our best players this season. Him, Johnny Evans, and Azraoui, which is damning because our best players should be our captain in Bruno Fernandes, should be Marcus Rashford, should be people like that who've been at the club a long time, but they're not. So I think Bruno is up there. I think I spoke on Rashford and Anthony last season. This season again, I think there's been a lot of players like De Ligt has underperformed the last couple of games. He luckily got dropped along with Leacher for Maguire and Evans. But Dallow's been poor. Now, I know we don't have a lot of fullbacks to choose from at the minute, but you have to send a message to players. Like, if you play poorly, you will get dropped. Midfielders, it's happened as well. Like, Casemiro has been dropped for one bad game, but then other midfielders have come in and continue to stink up the joint and just not been dropped. So it's a weird dichotomy how certain players, like Ahmad's been pulled out of the team repeatedly for no other reason other than Ten Hag just wanted to play somebody else. I thought he's played well last every game he's played in, and he's offered something, but he's just not been kept in the team consistently. I think Rashford, he was in a goal scoring vein of form, gets pulled off from the team at Crystal Palace and doesn't play, and he's just like, well, why has that happened? Why are you not playing the guy who's clearly in form, and you played through really terrible form last season, hoping he would come good? Now he is starting to come good, and he's starting to score, and then you've dropped him. It's a weird way he works, and it really baffles me, and I don't understand why he continues to do this and why he continues to select certain players when they're underperforming and then drops players when they're playing well, like Ahmad and Rashford, and plays somebody else. It really frustrates me and it really confuses me because I want to get behind this manager and I want to support him and be like, if people come at us or come at the manager, be like, no, look, he's done this has worked, not giving me a lot to work with at the minute. He's giving me a lot of sort of frustrating things where I see the point of people who are like, turn out out, managership, but I see their point despite the way they express it. So I think, yeah, we need to drop underperformers. Like, if they're not playing well, drop them. Doesn't matter if they're captain, doesn't matter if they're senior player, doesn't matter if they're on a massive wage or a massive contract, they need to be dropped if you're not performing. That should be the standard. You don't play well, you do not play. That simple. I'm just going to check out the chat. Who's in the chat? Let's have a look. Richard, Moondog, Charlie, nice to see you, lads. Evening, guys, even gentlemen, nice to see you. Charlie Marmon, he did go into survival mode against Villa, playing the most boring setup I have ever seen. Yeah, that was a terrible game. Really terrible game. He basically set up not to lose. He didn't go into that game to win. He was literally just going, how can I save my job? That's what I do. I'll set up so that I will not lose this game rather than trying to beat Villa. Luckily, Villa were quite terrible. Maybe a little bit of hangover from Europe, maybe a little bit of sort of um, tiredness from beating Bayern Munich and sort of like absolutely smashing it there. Maybe that was the thing. It was a weird day. That was a really weird game. Richard Hawkins' tactical flexibility, or rather the lack of it, is my main gripe with him. That combined with his refusal to drop certain players when they're not playing well. See, Richard, same wavelength. Same wavelength, mate. Hopefully you agree with my third one as well. Simple football manager. The first thing I would do as manager is to think what system suits the players have at disposal. Yeah, exactly. Like you've got players like really direct players like Rashford and Garnacho, very direct, very quick, thrive on balls in behind, running onto the end of things. A counter attack style essentially. Like that's how it thrives. And then you've got a guy like Rasmus who thrives with balls into the box, cutbacks, that kind of stuff. Again, balls in behind, but you're playing with two very selfish wingers who are not going to cut the ball back, who are not going to cross the ball most of the time, who are not going to look for that link up play. And then you're playing Rasmus Højlund with them. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to the use of players that you have in your system and playing to the system that's going to benefit your players the most. Now, he has brought in Joshua Zirkzee, who I do like, but again, he looked poor when he came on the other day. Like, he couldn't get his feet from underneath him. He looked heavy touch and stuff like that. And he sort of hopefully brings some link up play, but then his goal scoring is a worry. He scored his goal on his debut against Fulham, but since then hasn't offered too much. But that sort of like brings me on to my third point. Goals win games. So as we know this season, we have suffered trying to score goals. A lot of our players who would normally bring the goals haven't come with them this season. Garnacho got quite a few goals last season. Højlund, what did he end up with? 12 goals, I think, all competitions. Hasn't, I know he's been injured for a bunch of the season. Ahmad hasn't provided goals. Bruno hasn't been providing goals, although like not too bad. I think you expect more assists and more sort of play from him. But again, goals is normally something that comes with him, and it hasn't happened. You saw Casemiro contributing last season. Again, that hasn't happened here. We've suffered with goals, man. Goals have been such an issue. If you want to win games and play a certain style, you have to score goals. Like what's the old adage? Defenses win your titles and then goals win your games. And we're not winning games at the minute. We are languishing in the bottom half of the table. I think we've scored 5 goals this season in the Premier League, and 3 of them have come against Southampton, who are probably going to get relegated this season. And for the first 8 minutes, they look like the better team. We've then struggled to score in pretty much all of our games. Like Fulham, it didn't look like we were going to score at all, and we ended up putting a last-minute thing with Joshua Zirkzee to get his foot on the end of. And then here, every other game, we've just looked outclassed, outmatched, and not happening. So he needs to find a way to get these players. Again, this probably comes down to the system and his tactical flexibility. He needs to find a way of getting these players scoring goals. Højlund needs to start scoring goals now he's back from injury. Zirkzee needs to get into the box more often and get on the end of things and score some goals. Rashford needs to score more goals. Garnacho, when he comes on, needs to be less wasteful and more sort of like in the zone and play balls into either Højlund or make sure his shots are not just complete speculative. Ahmad needs to contribute more goals. Bruno needs to contribute more goals. We've seen our defenders probably contribute more goals this season. De Ligt's come up with one. Maguire came up with against Porto. We need to see the whole team contribute because we don't have a striker who is a 25 goal, 30 goal season a striker. We haven't got that. Like, again, that's another argument that you could probably do into sort of transfers alongside left back. We haven't got that striker, that lean veteran striker who's going to definitely, no matter what, he will 1 out of 2 chances, he'll put him in the back of the net. They'll end up with 25 goals. We haven't got that. Like Ivan Toney was available, ended up going to Saudi. So we don't have that. So all the other players are like wide forwards, Højlund and Zirkzee. I know they're inexperienced in the Premier League, but they need to step up. Rashford is capable of scoring 30 goals, so he needs to step up. Bruno has got 15 odd goals. He needs to step up. These players need to step up and score goals. Again, it's not just on the players. I think the system isn't helping. The sort of wingers we played that I touched on, and the forwards is that. I think that has a sort of a way of like affecting the performance, the system. But I do think Garnacho has been very wasteful in chances. I thought Xerxes had quite a few opportunities not put in the back of the net. Hoyland hasn't really touched the ball, which is again down to the system because we're not putting the ball into him. The only player who's looked like he's been in any sort of form and sort of had any sort of goal threat is Marcus Rashford. And again, he is an inconsistent player, so it's a really interesting time for Manchester United in a minute because when you think of Manchester United, you think counter attack, you think flying wingers, you think scoring goals, attack, attack, attack. That's what you think of Manchester United. And in a minute, we're not. We're not scoring goals. We're creating a lot of opportunities. I think our XG is really, I believe our XG is one of the highest in the league, but I believe our conversion of XG is like one of the lowest. So I think we rank like near Southampton. I think only Southampton are worse off than us. So it's a real concern, man. And I think we missed two really sort of big things in the summer. Signing a left back, because we've seen Mazraoui is now out for a while. I saw something today that he might be back from Brentford, but I don't know if that's confirmed. He has a heart issue. Dallo is our only fit fullback, and I think at left back he's been prone to mistakes and he's made mistakes. Raul Malacia, we don't know. We've seen him boxing, but how long is he away? Is he ever going to come back? If he does, like how long is it going to take him to get up to speed? Because he's not played football for 18 months. Luke Shaw, basically not a player for us that we can't rely upon. Like he's just not available ever. So we've suffered there not buying a left back. I think we could have not wasted the 60 odd million on Mason Mount and bought a striker or bought a left back with that money. I think that was a weird buy. And again, it's not his fault that he's injured all the time, but we spent money on a player there who was supposedly integral to Ten Hag's system, and he hasn't been available. So we've essentially wasted money on it. Like, and I'm not having a go at the guy because again, injuries are not his fault. He's not done it on purpose. But why is that? Why have we spent 60 million on a guy in the last year of his contract when we could have got a left back? We could have got a striker with that money. Could have gone and got Ivan Toney. Could have gone and got Gutierrez or Anthony Robinson from Fulham. Could have gone and got and solved that issue. Don't think we needed Mason Mount. He's not going to play over Bruno, and he's been injured consistently. So, yeah, it's been a weird time under Ten Hag, and I think even if these three things that I've mentioned we bring back, and these three things I mentioned, and he's able to implement all three of them, I still don't think it's enough to save his job. I think there would have to be a miraculous turnaround for him to complete this like redemption arc of his. But again, stranger things have happened in football. Stranger things have happened. Let's have a look at the chat. Charlie Marmon, Tuchel wants the United job now, and Sir Jim wants him. Just a matter of time for Erik Ten Hag. Could be, mate. Really, really, really could be. Chivy's in the chat. Shout out to Chivy. Not sure what a manager can do to save his job. If there was anything he could do, he would have done it. I get your point, Chivy, but I think he's capable of tactical change and he's capable of doing stuff. But I just think he's so stubborn that he doesn't want to because he doesn't want to. Doesn't want to let go of his principles. He wants to like make. If he implements his principles, he wants them to work, and if he has to go back on them, that makes him seem weak, and it makes him seem like it's not worked, and he has to admit defeat or failure. And I think that's kind of. I think he's a very proud man, and I think that's kind of his thinking. I might be wrong. I might just be putting stuff on him, but yeah. Chivy, I don't think it's like a triumph for the players. It's the way we play as a bearing on performance. Absolutely, I think it's a bit of both. I think the system completely doesn't help the players and exposes players' weaknesses, doesn't enhance their strengths. But I think players need to take their chances more. We've had a really high XG, more shots on goal this season. We need to be converting more of them. Have to. Jolly Marmon, we don't really play with much wingers. The moving to the box becomes second or third strike is really strange to watch how we play. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. We don't use the players' abilities to their best and play the way that will suit them best and get the best out of them. We just don't. Richard Hawkins, I still don't understand why we spent 60 million on Mason Mount when that money could have bought us a decent young left back. Exactly. Just literally what I just said, Richard. So I absolutely agree with you. And what is ongoing refusal not to give Harry Amas a run out? Does this guy not realise we're desperate? Again, this is probably another point I could have brought on. Square pegs in round holes. We are desperate for a left back. Like, desperate is probably an understatement of what we are for a left back. And he will play everybody except Harry Amos there. He will play Leach's played at left back. Lindelof's played at left back. Dallow's played at left back. I think Toby Collier played at left back at some point this season. So he will do everything except play the actual left back we have, who's highly rated, highly touted. He will do everything but that. So I've seen reports saying basically he doesn't think he's physically ready for the Premier League. But when you're at this point where you don't have a fit left back, and we've seen young players when they've been thrown in and been given opportunity and shine, why not give him the opportunity? Like, how much worse could it be? I don't think it could get any worse than what we're playing now. Like, I think it's worth a chance and worth giving him an opportunity. But yeah, he just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know why. This summer we bought him out. We had 3 left backs: Malacia, Shaw, and Fernandez. Fernandez gets told he's not in deck. Plans gets loaned out, then sold. We loan in Region. Yeah, but then he let Region go back because he was told Malacia and Shaw would be back, and they weren't because they were injured. And we sold, like you said, we sold Fernandez, which is stupid to me. I thought he was a really good left back. It's just, again, really weird business. I don't understand it. I think Richard said the same thing. Yeah, got rid of Region. One trying to get a decent left back. Fernandez, look at him say he's really good at Benfica. I agree. I think me and Chivy were really annoyed when that got announced, that deal. I believe we do have a buyback in there, which is great because I think we the amount of times we've sold young players and they've gone on to do well, and we're like short in that position, like we are at a left back. I think it's good to have these. I think that's the one of the good things that this new regime, this new Ineos board has brought in. It's like, might not be able to sell players for like fortunes like City do, but we're putting buybacks in, we're putting sell-on clauses in, so if they do turn out to be great, we can buy them back for a relatively decent fee. And also, if they're sold on for a really big fee, like Mason Greenwood and Facundo Pellistri, we get some money out of it, which is what we want, rather than, obviously we can't command the fees that everybody else seems to be able to command for their academy players for some reason. So yeah, I think that's really good. If you've guys got any questions for the last 3 or so minutes, I will answer them and then I will get out of it. It's just a nice quick one today. Just because the news is a bit dead. Just seeing Andrew Onana wins the Premier League save of the month for August. The double stop against Palace and the keeper this month. Oh, yeah, I agree with that. That was a fantastic stop. And he's a guy, I think he's one of the only players this season. I think him, Mazraoui, and Eriksen and Johnny Evans, they're the only ones who come out with any sort of like shine on them this season. I think Onana's been really, really good, made some really important saves, kept us in a lot of games. With the Palace game, there being an example, I think it probably could have been about 5 or 6-0 against Spurs had he not pulled out some saves and had Timo Werner not been the guy on the end of it. If that was Son, I think that's probably about 6-0. So yeah, I'm glad that he's getting recognised for who he is and why he's a good goalkeeper. I think he's coming good, and touch wood, we've not seen much of the mistakes this season, so hopefully that continues for him. I'm just checking to see if there's any news. Yeah, chuck questions in the chat, guys, for the last 2-3 minutes. Otherwise, I will get out of here and we can sort of get on with our evenings. Benny McCarthy's had some comments, but I've not had a chance to read through them, so I will put them up on the socials for Ollie if you want to check those out. Otherwise, I'll just be reading out quotes, which is not fun for anybody. I think that is. I know Nick. Nicholas Reyes touched in on the Eriksen thing. There was a lot of reports saying he was leaving Manchester United, but apparently the journalist replied to the people who were putting it out and basically said that's not what he said, and you have misconstrued that or you're falsely reporting it. Apparently he's just not spoke about having a new deal. There's no plans to leave. He just wants to prioritize the national team before anything else. I think that was what the journalist was saying. So yeah, if you did see that, just sort of wanted to clear that up if you were watching the show morning this afternoon, wondering why. I think there's been a bit of backlash and a bit of sort of people rambling to change things like that. Oh, there was this as well. Mick Brown, United's former chief scout, was speaking about on Bruno. Again on Bruno though, it's now he's being asked to play and what his role in the team that's causing issues. I'm sure he's as frustrated as the fans are with the way he's been playing and the results. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff about Bruno and not being used properly in the system. Obviously, when we see him for Portugal, he looks fantastic, doesn't he? Like he looks one of the best players in Europe when he plays for Portugal. But when he plays for United, it's really, really frustrating. Do we win the Europa League? I don't think so, based on current form. FC Twente was the lowest ranked team in Europe. We struggled, and one mistake cost us, and we should have put them away. Porto, we were coasting, and we were winning that game 2-0, and then we chucked that away again. And if it wasn't for Harry Maguire, probably would have lost that game. Again, we're going to face a lot more stiffer tests than those two. Porto were really worried about that game, thinking they were going to get battered. The manager was under pressure, but they got a thing out of that. I touched on Twente being the lowest ranked team. I think Fenerbahce away is going to be a really tough game, especially against Jose Mourinho. And then you got teams like Roma and stuff like that later on. Like I don't see us doing it. Ericsson is out of contract in the summer, so 100% he's leaving for free along with Lindelof. Possibly, yeah. But I think they both could leave next summer if they're not signed to a new deal. Again, I don't know if you would sign him to a new deal because that's wages off the books, and you could get in a young centre back and another sort of 10/8. I think that would be the better way to go. But we're not that good. They could not put away Bodo Glimt, who had a 10-man for 45 minutes. Exactly. They've been playing poorly, Porto, and we couldn't even beat them. So there you go. Jorge Olivia Valenzuela. The case of Alvaro Carras, only left back United, now have no sell on. No have is sell now, come back, buy from Benfica again is a mess. I get what you mean. We have got a buyback, which I think is relatively low. I think it's a relatively low buyback clause, so I don't think it costs too much to get him back, to be honest with you. Richard Hawkins, yes, agree. The only thing at the start of the season I've seen that as a nailed on Champions League place. Chewy said the same. Chewy said the exact same thing. He said, put all your eggs in the basket of the Europa League because he didn't see us finishing top 4, but we could win that competition with the teams in it. We're definitely capable of winning it, but showed so far that we're just not to that level. Like, we just aren't, especially with the way we're playing. So, yeah. I think I'll call it a night. I think I wanted to thank everybody for joining us. I know international breaks are normally a bit slow. I wanted to offer you a little bit of something different with this. Yeah, let's bring back club football. I mean, we say that, but we follow United, and at the minute it's just not fun, is it? Follow all the socials are linked in the description: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. If you just found this video after I've been live, drop it in the comments. Let me know how you found the channel. Do you enjoy the channel? And make sure you subscribe to it. And yeah, any other sort of things, hit us a message on the Instagram. Always happy to chat football. And then yeah, keep your eye out for any news on the Twitter and the Instagram, and we'll keep you up to date. Last couple of comments. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everyone. Stay safe. Hit the like as you leave. Absolutely, Richard. To me, finishing high in the league is most important. Finishing 8th, not good enough. People blind how bad we have in the FA Cup wins, so they saved this manager. Yeah, very much sums it up. Last season really does. Thank you, Stephanie. Big up to you as well. Appreciate you guys dropping in the chat. The regulars, always nice to see you. I will see you guys tomorrow. Or one of us or a bunch of us will see you tomorrow. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate the love. You guys have a great night. Peace out.